Some recordings don't look real the first time you see them, not because of poor quality or strange angles, but because what appears on screen doesn't behave like any known animal should. These clips weren't staged or planned. They were filmed by people who noticed something unsettling in their surroundings and kept recording, often without fully understanding what they were looking at. What makes these encounters disturbing isn't just the creatures themselves, but the fact that they were captured in familiar places, under ordinary conditions, as if they weren't trying to stay hidden at all. And once you see them, it becomes difficult to dismiss the question that follows. If these moments were caught on camera, how many others were never recorded? Rural road encounter. On a rural road in southern France, between Saint-Cirque-la-Paupier and Cajarc, dogs began howling shortly before the streetlights flickered twice and went dark. For days, locals had reported missing birds, restless cattle, and strange lights over nearby fields. That night, 6 people returned with flashlights and cameras. One of them stopped suddenly, pointing toward the road ahead. Their beams revealed a tall figure, over 1.8 meters, moving low on all fours. Its limbs were thin but strong, the skin dull and leather-like, with folded wings twitching along its back. The eyes reflected light intensely, fixed and unblinking. When a flashlight hit its face, the creature stopped. A phone camera's flash fired. The video cut out. When the lights came back on, only scorched claw marks remained on the pavement. Days later, everyone present reported an unfamiliar system folder appearing on their phones, impossible to delete. Dirt road apparition. On a dirt road along Route 04 in Ayacucho, Peru, road workers stopped when every dog in the area began howling at the same time. One of them raised a phone as something emerged slowly from a distant curve in the road. A massive creature walked down the center, moving calmly and without sound. Its body appeared feline, dark and muscular, covered in thick fur. From its back, 2 large wings hung partially open, their black feathers dragging lightly across the ground. There were no footsteps, no wind, and no movement in the surrounding brush. The creature paused, lifted its head, and spread its wings slightly, not to fly, but as if to reveal them. Moments later, it vanished into the bushes without breaking a single branch. The clip lasts 31 seconds. When replayed, viewers noticed a second winged figure standing motionless at the edge of the frame, watching. Open field encounter. Near an open field outside Cedar Hill, Missouri, the Wheeler family noticed a hunched figure moving through tall grass just before sunset. At first, they assumed it was an injured animal and moved closer. Then they stopped. Standing in the field was a bat-like creature balanced on 2 bent legs, shaking as if struggling to remain upright. Its torso was covered in wet, black feathers, and its wings hung at its sides like distorted limbs rather than something meant for flight. The eyes appeared unusually large, almost human in the way they reflected light. It had a beak, but the sound it made didn't resemble an animal call. Those filming described it as panicked, almost desperate. As the creature lifted its head toward the sky, the footage slowed unexpectedly and the audio warped before cutting to silence. When the image returned, the field was empty. The clip was removed hours later. Nothing else was found. Deck Anomaly. Night falls over the deck of a working vessel as floodlights cut through the darkness. Suspended above the metal floor hangs a massive jellyfish, freshly lifted from the water. Its translucent bell glows blue and white under artificial light, while long gelatinous tendrils spill downward, stretching like liquid fabric. Crew members stand beneath it for scale, making the size impossible to ignore. The animal appears intact, still reacting to gravity and air as seawater drains slowly onto the deck. Its body pulses faintly, responding to an environment it doesn't belong in. At first glance, the scene feels unreal. The jellyfish looks engineered rather than biological, oversized, almost architectural. But no unknown species is confirmed. Some jellyfish are known to reach extreme sizes, and harsh lighting erases familiar reference points. There is no aggression, no movement toward the crew, just a deep-sea organism briefly removed from its world, seen in a setting where it feels profoundly out of place. Giant squid on deck. A large Japanese fishing vessel slows in open water after the catch is pulled aboard. Moments later, movement spreads across the deck. Lying on the metal surface is a giant squid, its massive body still intact, tentacles stretching in every direction. Some slide slowly across the floor, others curl and recoil against the steel, reacting to contact and gravity. Crew members keep their distance, not in panic, but caution. Even out of water, the animal is still alive. Nervous reflexes trigger slow, powerful contractions. Suction cups cling briefly, then release, leaving wet impressions behind. To many viewers, the scene looks chaotic, almost aggressive, but context matters. Giant squids are real animals, and when brought rapidly to the surface, pressure loss and stress cause uncontrolled movement. There is no sign of hostility, no attempt to strike the crew. Only a deep-sea creature reacting to an environment it was never meant to enter. What unsettles viewers is not the motion itself, but how large and alive it still is above the surface. Nightwater retrieval. Night fishing under artificial lights unfolds on calm water as a CCTV camera records from above. An American man reels in a large fish beside the yacht, the moment appearing routine and unremarkable. Then the surface breaks. A pale humanoid shape appears briefly near the catch. An arm-like form reaches upward, and within seconds, the fish is pulled away. Whatever surfaced vanishes back into the water without sound or splash. Many viewers quickly label it a mermaid, pointing to the posture, the speed, and the way it appears and disappears so cleanly. But low light distorts color and shape, and reflections on water can form human-like silhouettes. Large fish, rays, or marine mammals can surface vertically for brief moments, especially near a hull where perspective exaggerates scale. There is no follow-up footage and no physical evidence, only a short clip recorded at night. What makes this unsettling isn't what is clearly visible, but how fast it happens, just long enough to be seen, not long enough to be understood. Field aftermath. After a storm passed over the Willow Creek Plains in Montana, several farmers went out to search an area where multiple drones had lost signal at the same time. In the middle of a field, among wet, flattened grass, they found something alive. A figure lay low against the ground. Black feathers were soaked through, clinging to patches of reddish skin. Its body appeared badly proportioned, with wings dragging awkwardly as if damaged. The head looked almost human, but the eyes were completely black and unblinking. As a woman began recording, the creature slowly pushed itself upright, using its winged limbs like arms. Then it emitted a sharp, metallic sound that didn't resemble an animal call. People dropped to the ground as devices began to fail, screens filling with static before going dark. When rescue teams arrived minutes later, the field was empty. Only wet feathers and deep drag marks remained. Secured deck specimen. A large fishing vessel returns with something tightly secured to the deck. Ropes are pulled taut, and the crew keeps their distance as floodlights reveal a massive, elongated form lying motionless on the boards. The body appears reptilian, with a broad head and rows of sharp, uneven teeth exposed. Its skin looks rough and textured, almost stone-like, glistening under the wet light. Many viewers immediately compare it to a sea serpent or something out of fiction. The scale alone is unsettling, but there is no visible movement, no breathing, no clear biological response. Lighting, camera angle, and moisture exaggerate detail and size, while certain features raise questions about authenticity. There is no official report, no port record, and no confirmed identification tied to the footage. What remains is a striking image, frightening at first glance, suspended in a space between reality and fabrication, where certainty never fully forms. A fishing boat's deck is crowded. Crew members gather around something enormous. Hauled upright by cables is a massive creature-like figure. Its body is bulky, covered in ridges and spike-like protrusions. A wide mouth hangs open, lined with sharp, irregular teeth. From certain angles, it looks less like an animal, and more like something alien. The scene quickly spread online as an alien sea monster. Viewers point to the exaggerated anatomy, the armored skin, the scale compared to the crew standing below it. But skepticism is unavoidable here. The creature shows no independent movement, no muscle response, no visible biological function. The textures appear uniform and stylized. Proportions resemble known cinematic creature designs more than documented marine life. There are no port records, no scientific reports, no confirmation that this was a living organism pulled from the sea. What's shown is visually disturbing, convincing at first glance, but without context or verification, this discovery sits firmly on the line between staged fabrication and viral spectacle. Trench discovery. At a quiet worksite in Atchison County, Kansas, workers were installing a fence when the ground beneath them suddenly gave way. A narrow trench opened without warning, as if the soil below were unstable or hollow. Inside, they found something alive. The figure was thin and gray, with skin stretched tightly over its frame. Long wings hung from its back like wrinkled fabric, ending in fingers shaped more like elongated human hands than claws. It weighed very little and trembled constantly, showing no clear attempt to escape. 5 people held it in place, none of them speaking. One worker, who had fallen into the pit first, later said he heard voices before hitting the bottom, though no source was found. The creature opened its mouth once, but no sound was recorded. When authorities arrived, the trench was empty. No explanation was given. Fog forest encounter. In a fog-covered section of Knudmo's forest in northern Denmark, a thermal monitoring drone flagged unusual movement near a restricted zone. Rangers initially believed it was migrating elk moving through the trees. Then something emerged. Between moss-covered trunks stood a creature with 4 powerful legs and a dense, woolly body. Where an animal's head should have been was a grotesque face, marked by a bone-like beak and folds of wet skin. Its wings were not feathered but membranous, stretched like those of a giant bat and clearly useless for flight. Twisted horn-like structures rose along its back. A sharp electrical smell filled the air as one ranger lifted his phone. The creature turned slowly and looked directly at him. At that moment, every electronic device shut down. When the fog thinned and the signal returned, the creature was gone. Only deep tracks and a scorched mark on a tree remained. Open ocean silhouette. In open ocean, with no land in sight, a camera is already rolling when a massive shape appears beneath the surface beside a moving vessel. Dark and smooth, it keeps pace with the ship, matching its speed without breaking the water. The outline is indistinct, but the scale unsettles viewers. The silhouette stretches far beyond the visible frame, large enough to suggest something bigger than most known marine animals. Online, it is quickly labeled a sea monster, but skepticism is necessary. Water absorbs detail, and depth erases reliable scale. At speed, overlapping waves, submerged hull reflections, or even the ship's own shadow can appear detached and alive beneath the surface. No clear anatomical features are visible. No fins, no eyes, no contact with the vessel. There is no follow-up footage, no sonar data, and no independent confirmation. Only a moving mass under shifting water, powerful enough to unsettle, vague enough to resist explanation. Secured marine body. Rough seas crash against a working fishing vessel as crew members move carefully across an already soaked deck. Stretched across the steel surface lies an enormous marine body, held in place by heavy chains while waves strike the hull. Its skin is dark and thick, marked by irregular bumps, scars, and damage patches that make its outline difficult to read. At first glance, many viewers believe it is an unknown creature. The proportions feel wrong, and the surface doesn't resemble most familiar animals. But skepticism is necessary. There is no visible movement, no muscle response, and no active anatomy. Seawater saturation, damage, and early decomposition can dramatically alter how large marine animals appear once hauled aboard. Barnacles and parasites further distort shape, and pressure changes can cause swelling and tearing, There is no official identification, no port record, and no follow-up report. Only a massive form on steel decking, caught between waves, chains, and speculation. Dawn restraint. At dawn in a rural village, residents gathered after spotting a strange creature suspended above the road. It hadn't landed, it was being held in place. Several people used ropes to restrain it as it struggled in the air. The creature had massive wings, partially spread and shaking violently. Its body appeared bird-like, but distorted, too heavy and too elongated to look functional. Its legs dangled helplessly, ending in sharp talons that clawed at empty air. The wings beat slowly and unevenly, as if the creature didn't fully know how to use them. There were no screeches or panic sounds, only strained movement and silence. A nearby church stood in the background as the ropes were pulled tighter. No one approached, no one spoke. The video ends before the creature is brought down. There is no follow-up footage and no explanation of what happened next. Only a brief moment of something that shouldn't exist, seen struggling not to escape, but simply to stay aloft. Rooftop observer. In a quiet residential area, neighbors noticed a winged creature crouched on the edge of a house roof, staring straight down toward the street. According to witnesses, it appeared suddenly and remained there, body tense, wings fully spread as if prepared to jump. The person filming began from the backyard and slowly zoomed in. A hunched posture came into focus, along with a strange face and claws pressed firmly against the metal surface. Nothing about its stance suggested rest. It looked deliberate, balanced, and aware. One witness later said it felt like the creature was watching them, rather than the other way around. There were no sounds, no wing movement, and no shift in position, just a fixed stare that caused people nearby to step back instinctively. The figure remained motionless for several seconds. Then the clip ends, before anyone sees it leave. Mounted deck object. A camera turns on mid-deck with tight framing as hands point towards something fixed against the ship's structure. What appears on screen looks symmetrical and segmented, almost engineered rather than organic. Multiple thick limbs extend outward from a central body, arranged in a pattern that doesn't resemble most marine life. The surface appears fleshy and ribbed, uniform in texture under harsh lighting. Online, it's quickly labeled a mutant creature, something altered or not meant to exist. The way it's positioned suggests transport rather than restraint, secured in place as if meant to be moved. But skepticism is unavoidable. There is no visible movement, no reaction to touch, and no fluid motion in the limbs. The symmetry is unusually precise, and the lighting hides scale and depth, making proportions difficult to judge. There's no footage showing where it came from, no capture sequence, and no interaction beyond filming. Without biological response or confirmation, it remains an image that looks convincing at first glance, surrounded by very little information. Contained figure. Footage circulating online claims to show a restrained specimen inside a facility identified only as Black Ridge, somewhere in Nevada. The camera remains fixed, separated from the subject by a single glass barrier under harsh overhead lights. The figure does not blink or shift position. Wet fur clings tightly to its frame, as if it had been removed from water moments earlier. There are no labels, no warning signs, only concrete walls and silence. Those who filmed it describe an immediate sense of awareness, the feeling of being noticed before fully understanding what they were looking at. The glass appears thinner than expected, offering separation but little comfort. There is no movement, no sound, and no official confirmation that the location or subject is real. What remains is a brief recording of something still and watchful, presented without context, leaving viewers unsure whether they are seeing documentation, fiction, or something not meant to be visible at all. Forest laughter. Explorers had installed trail cameras to monitor ocelots. They didn't expect laughter, not human, but not animal either, a wet, tired sound carrying through the trees. One of them followed it. High on a moss-covered trunk, nearly 5 meters up, a figure clung to the bark. Its body was hunched and draped in long gray skin, fingers pressed deep into the wood. The face was almost human, with high cheekbones, deep-set eyes, and an expression that felt tired rather than hostile, as if it were remembering something. The man recorded without speaking. The figure noticed him, tilted its head, and released a second laugh, softer than the first. It didn't move or flee. Later, reviewing the footage, they realized the sound was missing. The laughter wasn't recorded, but in a single frozen frame, something else appeared. Human-like handprints carved into the bark beside it, cut deep like scars. No one returned to the forest.
It looks like a person.
Celtic Sea Retrieval. 92 kilometers southwest of Brest, France, the fishing vessel La Madeleine 2 was returning from a night trawl when the crew noticed the nets felt unusually light. Sonar had been malfunctioning earlier, but work continued. As the nets came up, something unfamiliar appeared tangled among the lines. One sailor began recording as a dark, inverted form emerged, its surface covered in glossy black scales. Several jointed appendages hung over the side of the boat, bending and pressing as if testing the structure. At first, the skin looked rigid, almost artificial. Then it contracted. A deep vibration resonated from within the mass as it rotated, exposing a wet, membranous surface where a face might have been. There were no eyes, only folds that opened and closed with the motion of the sea. The captain ordered the nets cut. Navigation data began to glitch. Deck cameras failed. The only footage was briefly uploaded, then removed without explanation. Stone field walker. A 5-second clip filmed from a distance shows a flat rural field under an overcast sky. The camera shakes slightly, struggling to keep focus on a massive shape moving across the ground. The figure appears to be made of stone. Large, irregular slabs form a heavy body supported by thick, rock-like limbs that lift and settle with slow, deliberate motion. Each step compresses the soil beneath it, leaving shallow impressions as it advances. There are no visible joints or features that explain how it moves, only weight shifting from one limb to another. Nothing else in the frame reacts. No people, no animals, no machinery. The surrounding landscape remains unchanged as the stone figure continues walking, unhurried and silent. The clip ends mid-step. No additional footage exists, just a brief moment of something that looks geological, moving as if it were alive.